All right, good morning. How are y'all? I just told them I had to put on my streamer voice, and we're getting started here. We were having a discussion about printers beforehand, which is fun. Printers are the worst thing in the world. They're the bane of my existence, and I'm so glad that we pay somebody to repair the printers at the school now, and we don't do it ourselves, because it was terrible. As you saw, as you can see here, as you saw at home, we are talking about Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 13. We're looking at this interaction between Jesus and the Pharisees that has to do with Jewish traditions. Okay, and the two of you are probably thinking, we're not Jewish. Why do we care about Jewish traditions? You have traditions, don't you? Yeah? Don't you kind of want to know if those traditions are good or if they're going to be harmful? Yeah. We all have traditions. We all encounter this, especially in churches. We have lots of traditions, and you don't even realize that they are traditions until somebody questions them. And I want to encourage you today, as we get started, that you kind of need to understand why your traditions are a thing. You need to understand why you do those things so that you can decide if you're going to continue to do them. And it may be that they're very important and there's a really good reason, but if you don't look into that, you'll never know. So today we're looking at this passage. Is this going to work? Are we going to be broken again today? We're going to be broken again today. Come on. There we go. I fixed it. This is a common problem in churches, but in your everyday life, this is not just applicable to church. Okay, it's your family, it's your home culture, it's your national traditions, it's all of those things. This applies to all of those things. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we go through this passage. We're going to see that the Pharisees come up to Jesus, and they're going to try and trick him. They're going to try and get him to fall into a trap because his disciples are, again, doing something that the Pharisees think is bad. Y'all remember what we talked about last time the disciples did that got them in trouble? They didn't rest. So not last week, but what got them in trouble? So this was several weeks ago. We talked about it a little bit, maybe last week. We did talk about it last week, Raymond. You're right. They were going through a field picking grains of wheat and eating the grains of wheat on the Sabbath. And the Pharisees were like, why are you letting them work on the Sabbath? And Jesus was like, are y'all stupid? I mean, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And we did kind of touch on that a little bit last week, but not much. So that is a Jewish tradition that there was a reason for that Jesus comes into conflict with during his ministry. So when Jesus comes into conflict with something and he does something that the Pharisees are going around calling him a criminal or a sinner for, we need to look at that thing and see, is that thing a biblical tradition or is that thing an extra? Is it just something they tacked on? Yeah. We're gonna learn 3 ideas here about these traditions, and it kind of progresses through the passage. It gets worse as you go. So let's look. We're going to start with the first one, and that is very simply that there are a ton of traditions. Like, I don't think y'all understand how many traditions there are. Okay. Let's read verses 1 through 4. Now when the Pharisees gathered to him, who's him? Jesus, yes. Now when the Pharisees gathered to him with some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem, they saw that some of his disciples ate with hands that were defiled, that is, unwashed. They did not wash their hands before they ate. Interesting. Yeah, we're all kind of cringing a little bit over here. For the Pharisees, this is the reason. You see the 4. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they wash their hands properly, holding to the tradition of the elders. Okay? Very important. What do they do before they eat? Why do they do that? Do they know about germs? No. We're not going to figure out what germs are until the 1800s. In fact, hand washing for surgery was not a thing until the 1800s. Okay, because they didn't. But the Jews are doing this in like the turn of the millennia, so or the epic, the first century. 0. They're doing it in year 0, man. What? Why? The tradition of the elders. The elders knew something. They needed to wash their hands. They didn't know why, but they had this idea of ritual purity. They wanted to be clean before they ate. Keep that in mind. And when they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash. This is still the explanation of the tradition. And there are many other traditions that they observe, such as the washing of cups and pots and copper vessels and dining couches. What is a dining couch? I have no clue what a dining couch is, and it bothers me that I don't know what a dining couch is. Yeah, it's probably just what they sat on around the table. But why are they washing? Is it fabric? Is it wood? How are they washing it? Why are they washing the thing they sit on before they eat? It seems kind of ridiculous, doesn't it? All right, so what traditions have we learned of here? What is the inciting incident? Inciting incident. Well, that's what causes the conflict? Going back to verse 1.
Oh, they didn't eat it like that.
Yeah, the disciples were eating without washing their hands first. Have you ever eaten without washing your hands?
No.
Oh, don't lie. Yes, you have. You ever like eat and then you're like halfway through eating and you realize your hands smell like pennies? And you're like, I gotta go wash my hands because they smell weird?
I can't smell it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll talk about that later. I'm curious to find out if there's a story there. So I do a lot of work with technology, and technology has like a distinct smell, like metal, weird smell. And oftentimes I get to a point where right now my hands smell like soap because I washed them a few minutes ago. But that's a bad example. But oftentimes I find myself like, I feel gross. I gotta go wash my hands. Like they've got grit on them, or drywall, or fiberglass, or they just feel gross. Dirt, oil. I work on my own cars, so I often have oil and grease in the little grooves of my fingers, and I want to wash my hands because I don't want to eat those things. Why? Why do I care?
You don't want to eat fiber for that.
Yeah, why? Because it could hurt me. But see, they don't understand. They don't know what germs are.
If there's dirt on your hands, I doubt you're gonna want to eat that, right?
I've seen some things, man. Farmers don't give two craps. They just eat. I've seen a farmer with literal manure on his hands eating a sandwich with those, like cow poo, eating a sandwich with that same hand. And I was like, dude, wash your hands. He's in the middle of the field. He had to go all the way up to the house to wash his hands. Wash your hands. All right, so I get this. Like I feel this on a very personal level. Wash your hands. But does the Bible say you have to wash your hands before you eat? That's the question. They're coming to him, and they're upset that the disciples had not washed their hands. And they're acting like it's some sort of terrible sin. Like they have defiled themselves. They have become unclean themselves because they didn't wash their hands before they eat. It's getting kind of ridiculous, isn't it? All right, but it's not just the hands. We get a lot of context. This is not normal for Mark. He doesn't usually tell us these kinds of things. I'm glad that he did this time. He says it's the tradition of the elders. He didn't say, as it is written. Okay, because he could have said that, and we would have gone, okay, where was it written? We'd be looking at the Old Testament to find out where it says wash your hands. Okay, and then if the law says wash your hands before you eat, the disciples aren't washing their hands, well, they're breaking the law. And it might be a silly law, but it's a law, and they have to keep it. But that's not what he says. He says the tradition of the elders. Do we want to keep the traditions of our elders? It depends. I have a family tradition. We all get together on Christmas Eve, and we have dinner. And my grandparents that's when they would do their gift exchange, when they would give us the gifts for Christmas, and we would give them our gifts for them. And that's a family tradition. These days, I'm down to one grandparent. My grandmother is the only one still with us. And unfortunately, she is coming down with dementia, we're pretty sure. And it's going to be a hard few years for us. But our traditions have changed a little bit. Now, because everybody's married and everybody has their own family traditions, now we just kind of pick a day and we all get together. And it's not usually Christmas Eve. But we all get together and we still do the same thing. We do the gift exchange. We do Secret Santa, not Dirty Santa, because that's one where you go around and steal people's presents. We do Secret Santa. And we have traditions, but they're different from when I was a kid. I don't know that they're better. They're just different. And so I want to keep the traditions of my elders. I carry a pocket knife. Do I need that every day? Am I likely to need it today? No, but my grandfather carried a pocket knife. This is my pocket knife. Irrelevant. My grandfather carried, it wasn't that much. My grandfather carried a pocket knife, and he tried to instill in me when I was young that I needed to carry a pocket knife. He bought me a Swiss Army knife, and I occasionally carry it, but I couldn't take it to school, and so it stayed in my dresser drawer most of the time. And then when we moved back from China, one of the movers stole it. I kept that thing for 7, 8 years, and then someone stole it. I was very sad. And so I bought another pocket knife, and I sometimes carried it, but it was inconvenient because it didn't sit far enough in my pocket. It kept getting caught on things and flinging out all over the place, and it was a problem. But at Arby's, I needed something to open boxes with, and so oftentimes I would carry a knife at work to do that. In high school, yes. All right, and so when my grandfather died, I thought, what lessons did he want me to learn that maybe I did not learn well enough? And most of them I learned how to try to fix things. Don't touch hot mufflers, okay? Because they will burn you. Don't touch hot things in general; they will burn you. I learned that right in front of my grandfather. I touched the lawnmower right after he finished cutting grass and burned my hand real bad. Don't run on slippery surfaces. I learned that at his pool the hard way. And I thought, I own a pocket knife, but I don't carry it because it's inconvenient. I need to get a pocket knife that I'll carry every day. So I put this one on my Amazon wish list. And eventually I bought it. And it fits in my pocket. It's out of the way. It doesn't cause me any trouble. It does wear down my jeans a little bit. Like the fabric is frayed there on one pair. But I carry it every day. It goes with my keys and my wallet. Oh, we're flickering again. It's not going to help. It's a bad bulb. It's going to have to be replaced. I can't hit it. It's behind a piece of plastic. Oh, it's fine. That's a tradition of my elder. And I do it, and I've found actually that I do use it most days. And more often than not, I do need the pocket knife in my pocket. Okay, I used it yesterday at work several times. All right. So some traditions are good. What about this tradition? Is it good to wash your hands? Yeah, it is. Is it good to wash your cups? Yeah. And your pots? And your copper vessels, so that would be what you store things in because copper is antibacterial. Is it good to clean off your table and your chairs? Occasionally, yeah. You don't want them to be filthy. You don't want ants everywhere. That's how you get ants, trust me. So none of this is bad. Why then are we hearing about it? Mark's making a point. There are a lot of traditions. There are a lot of things they do just because their elders did them. Some of those things are even good, and you should do them. But that doesn't mean that they carry the force of God's commands. I'll give you one more example. Why am I up here and you're sitting down there?
Because you're the preacher.
So I could be sitting in a circle with y'all and we could just be chatting.
You're like supposed to be high up.
Why? Why? I'm not better than you. I'm not more important than you.
It's just like better symbolism.
There's symbolism there, you're right. Normally I'd be in a sanctuary with a cross behind me, and the symbolism there would be that I'm representing Jesus. Okay. And I'm trying to represent Jesus to you. That's literally my job. But this is more conducive to learning in this style. Because I can look at you, you can look at me. It's harder for you to look at each other, and it's easier for you to pay attention because there are fewer distractions. except for the flickering light right over my face. Okay, but typically when the light isn't flickering, that's why we do this. There's a reason. Does that mean that if I decide one day to sit in a circle with y'all and preach from the circle, that I'm doing something wrong? No. Y'all get the idea, right? All right, moving on. There are a lot of traditions. A lot. You don't even realize how many things you do that are just traditional. Y'all eat tacos on Tuesdays? Probably not. At our house, we usually eat tacos on Tuesdays. Taco Tuesday. Yeah, it's because everybody in our family likes tacos, and Taco Tuesday sounds fun, and it's easy, it's fast. Okay, so we make tacos on Tuesday. Now, the next thing that we're going to learn from Mark, we get plenty of time. I'm trying to be done by 11:30 so we can go eat lunch. It gets worse. So it's not just that there's a tradition, and in fact, the tradition is good. And the disciples should have washed their hands because they were probably dirty. All right? But they're ignoring what the Bible says about the situation in order to do their own thing, to do their own traditions. Now, this isn't to say they're breaking the law of God, that they're violating God's commandments, but it is to say that they're paying more attention to their traditions. They've elevated their traditions above the word. So let's see exactly what Jesus says in verses 5 through 8. The Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why do your disciples not walk according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with defiled hands?" All right, so what's the premise? They're saying your disciples should walk according to the traditions of the elders. What's their argument? What are they saying? They're suggesting that it is required of his disciples to follow the traditions of the elders. The premise, you should, yeah. A premise is is the thing that you're arguing. Okay, so if you have a premise, you're trying to prove that premise. All right, this is you should watch some YouTube videos on logical arguments. It's really fun. It's actually not all that complicated either. Arguments require premises. All right, so they're saying, essentially what they're arguing is, you should follow the traditions of the elders. Are they going to make a case for that? Yeah, actually they do. Their hands are defiled, so they should be following the traditions of the elders and washing their hands. That's the case. I'm so sorry, the light's flickering. You can try turning it off and back on. It's not going to hurt anything. It's on right by the door, on the wall.
You can just leave it off.
What happens to the light? No, it's too dark. Can't do that. Vibey, it's the vibe. Okay, so the reason for why you should follow the tradition is because they're eating with defiled hands. Now they're implying something. In Torah, when something is unclean and it comes into contact with something that is clean, the clean things become unclean. Okay? So if you are covered in mud and you go give somebody a hug that is wearing white, what's going to happen? They're going to get muddy. This is something we understand as human beings pretty well. And he said to them, this is Jesus responding to the Pharisees, well, this isn't a question, this is a statement. Well, did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites? As it is written. Oh, wait. They said, what did they say? Tradition of the elders. And what is Jesus' response? As it is written. This is what God told you. This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. Interesting. Okay. So, what do we know about the Pharisees? Are they the good guys or the bad guys in the Gospels? They are the group of people who are supposed to be teaching everybody how to live. So they're in charge of the synagogue, that local, this would be a synagogue if we were Jewish, right? So you would come to somewhere that's local to you to gather on the Sabbath to learn from your teachers. The Pharisees are the ones that are supposed to be the example of keeping the law. Okay? That's who they are. And oftentimes, when we see them in the New Testament, they're doing the wrong thing. They're advocating for the wrong thing. These are the guys that plot to kill Jesus. The same group of people. They're always trying to catch him. They're trying to trick him. They're trying to get him to slip up. They hate him. And that's actually the whole point of what Jesus is saying. They honor me with their lips. They say cleanliness is next to godliness. They honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They're plotting to kill Jesus actively. So what's going on? Why is that? And we get a reason. We understand. In vain do they worship me. They sing songs, but there's nothing in the heart. They preach messages, but there's no change in themselves. They're dead inside. And what do they teach? They teach the doctrines. They teach as if they were commands of God. They teach the commandments of men to that same standard. Okay. I have an example of this. There is, at this point in history that Jesus is living, something called the Talmud. Okay? Now, it wasn't complete at this point in history, but most of what it makes up the Talmud was there at that point. The Talmud is a group of 3 documents that are supposed to be a fence around the law. Okay. Any of you ever seen a factory on a TV show?
Yeah.
Like, have you seen Terminator? Anybody seen Terminator? Probably for the best. But it's not the most Christian movie in the world.
I think
There's some terminating going on. So I want you to picture you're in a factory, and there are giant vats of acid around. What else do you expect to see? No. Safety railings. All right, you might have a cat. This is like a stereotypical way to do factory. I don't think any factory actually exists like this. But you've got like a catwalk down the middle, and there's a rail on either side. You got like the vats of molten metal or acid or chocolate or milk or what. It doesn't even matter what it is. But there's a railing to keep you from falling into the thing that could kill you, right? There are big warnings around ovens so that you don't go into a giant walk-in oven and burn to death. When you have a cliff, oftentimes there are guardrails around that cliff so you don't drive right off of it. Okay, why do we do those things? Yes, because there is a danger that we want you to avoid. Now, what is more dangerous to a Jew than breaking the law? Nothing. These are the rules that God gave them. A lot of them are punishable by death, not all of them, but they all have some sort of punishment, and it got Israel in so much trouble in their own history that they were taken as slaves into Babylon for 70 years as an entire nation. When they came back, they read the law, they all broke down, they said, we're going to keep this law, and then as the Pharisees start to become a thing, a group of people, they start building up a fence, a safety railing around the law. Sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? The law, these are the rules. The law is actually the thing that's supposed to prevent you from getting harmed. Most of the laws in the Torah, by the way, are common social laws, like if you break something, you have to fix it or replace it. Okay? But there are things like don't eat pork, and it's not because pork is sinful to eat, it's because it's riddled with parasites. At least it was in that time. Now we give pigs antibiotics so that they're not riddled with parasites. But yeah, we've got common cooking techniques and all kinds of things that make that better. Ivermectin and whatnot. So the law is there to keep them safe. Why are they building another law on top of it to keep them safe from the thing that's keeping them safe? It seems kind of silly, doesn't it? It seems like they're just making it overly burdensome. And this is what they do. They are pretending that their rules, the commandments of men, are equal to the doctrines of God, the things that God teaches them. And we go, well, that's kind of silly. Why? Are we as smart as God? No, we're not. We're not even as smart as most people, most likely, because there are averages and whatnot, at least in some areas. You are never the smartest person unless you are that one smartest person, and that person is still a complete idiot compared to God. Okay, and we don't understand this because we're humans. We can know it, but we don't really understand it. We still think that our way is somehow better. And this is what happened in the garden. They thought it is better for us to eat this fruit and become like God ourselves than just to obey him. That's why we're all in this mess. So they build up these rules so that they don't get close to breaking the Torah. And we'll see in a second that kind of backfires on them. Because the last... Womp womp. The last of the teachings here is actually quite tragic. The last idea is that some traditions are sinful. It's not just that there are a lot of traditions and that they're a burden. That's the first thing. It's not just that they're ignoring Scripture in favor of their own traditions. That's bad, but it's not actively sinful. But some of their traditions are actively sinful. Well, that could be a problem. Let's see what Jesus has to say in verses 9 through 13. And he said to them, this is fun, a fun way to word this. You have a fine way of rejecting the commandments of God in order to establish your tradition. For Moses said, honor your father and mother, and whoever reviles father or mother must surely die. These are actual laws, by the way, okay? So we can talk about that later. But you say, if a man tells his father or his mother, whatever you would have gained from me is korban, which is a word that means given to the Lord, then you no longer permit him to do anything for his father or mother. Thus, you'll see what just happened here, thus making void the word of God by your tradition that you have handed down. And many such things you do. Jesus says many such cases. Which is a fun meme. I like many such cases. What's the problem? What are they doing? What does God say that they need to do?
Stop these sinful traditions.
Oh yeah, honor your father and mother. That's the command. And so if, actually, y'all are both from Chinese families, right? Mm-hmm. Y'all are Chinese, right? You're not some other, like Taiwanese or... Yeah. Okay, I thought so. It's not safe to assume sometimes.
Taiwanese is a country.
For legal, I'm not getting into that because I don't want to get the Chinese secret police coming here. We can talk about it after church when we're not on live because I don't want the secret police to show up and talk to me. They exist. All right. He says, you're rejecting the commandment of God in order to establish your own tradition. This is now the third level of how bad this can be. Honor your father and mother. And the opposite side of that is, if you don't honor your father and mother, you should die. That's strict. Okay, that's crazy. Now, I want you to understand something. The first generation of Jews that got this covenant, do you think they listened to it? No. They didn't. What about their children? Yeah. Yes. Why? Because a lot of their parents died.
Is that like scary?
What about the third generation? No. And then the fourth generation was way off the rails, and then the fifth generation was back in line, and then the sixth generation didn't listen, and the seventh generation was way off the rails, and this is the cycle. It's about a 3-generation cycle. Good and terrible. Good and terrible. And this is Israel's entire history. What would have stopped that from happening? If they honored their father and their mother. And if their father and mother had done what God said to do and trained their children up in the right ways. Okay? 2 problems here. The parents don't teach their kids what God says or why it's important, and the kids do not respect their parents. How many people died in wars that Israel would not have gotten into if the people had just honored their parents and learned from them? Most of the Bible would not have needed to be written if they had just done this one thing. That's why the punishment was death. Now, rarely did anyone ever actually get punished for not honoring their father and mother, because parents were like, but he's a good kid. We don't want him. We don't want him to suffer. We don't want him. We don't. And it was just like never enforced, which is, it's understandable because I'm a parent and I wouldn't want to put my child to death for dishonoring me, obviously. But God doesn't really want you putting your children to death either. He wants them to honor their parents. And so the punishment is severe so that you'll take it very seriously. Again, are we smarter than God? There's a reason he's saying this. We don't have to understand it. I don't understand it. I kind of have a little bit of an idea, but I don't really understand why it's this severe. All right, but it actually says to stone children like that, and I'm like, whoa, that's
like the old.
that's the old. Yeah, that's not our law. But we should learn from that and make sure our kids learn the right thing from us so that they behave. All right, because look, I've got you for 2 hours a week. Your parents have you for 100.
Actually,
What's more important? It's more important that your parents be on the same page. Okay. Well, I mean, we could do the math later. I think it's 104, technically, because you count the time you're asleep. Yeah.
and like they're not in your free time.
The point is, I have you less than 1% of your week.
Actually,
Yes, or maybe less than 2%.
sleeping like 30% of the week.
Yeah, man. All right. So, what are they doing? What's the tradition? The tradition is that a child can come to their parents and say, everything I have. Huh. Well, how about that? Anyways, just got a text message from Hannah.
Saying what?
Something really funny. I'll tell y'all later. I'll tell you later. It's really funny. Don't let me forget to tell you the funny thing. So, gosh, I knew that was going to happen. It's so funny. I'll tell you. I will tell you later. I've got to get back to this, or we won't finish on time, and then we'll be late for lunch. I've got to get back to Cleveland by 2, so we've got to hurry. Okay. So, whatever you have gained from me is, we'll just skip that word because given to God. Everything you would have gained from me is given to God. Now, parents can dedicate their children to the Lord. This is what happens with Samuel. His mother Hannah says, if you give into God, it says right there. Okay. If you give me a son, God, then I will dedicate him to your service. And she has Samuel. God gives her a son, Samuel. She dedicates Samuel to God's service. And Samuel becomes the prophet that anoints King Saul and King David. All right, so he becomes a pretty important person. But can the kid go to their parents and say, everything I have is dedicated to the Lord and you can't have anything? Well, you would think, well, why is the kid responsible for taking care of his parents? Because our culture is different, isn't it? But your culture's not. The culture y'all both come from is not. That's exactly what they're expecting. They're expecting y'all, I mean, I'm not sure if your parents individually are, but the Chinese culture expects to have sons, and for those sons to take care of the parents in their old age. Yes? Why do you think they abort so many babies in China? Because they want sons.
Why?
Because the sons have a cultural expectation that they will take care of the parents in their old age.
Oh, that's weird.
It's kind of sad, isn't it? And when China was only allowing you to have one child, and if you get pregnant and it's a girl, there is a huge cultural pressure for you to abort that baby.
That is so
It's a tradition. Is it sinful? Oh, yeah. We got serious there, didn't we? If you say, I'm not going to take care of you, what are you doing? You are dishonoring your parents. Is that fair? I mean, in American culture, it's different and it's worse, arguably worse. I think that children should take care of their parents in their old age. Why? They took care of you when you were unable to care for yourself. It's just the right thing to do. If unless you absolutely cannot manage it. Now, for instance, there are times when your parent needs more care than you can reasonably provide. Maybe you don't have a spouse, maybe you don't have help, and you need somebody else to provide care for your parent. Then the most honoring thing you could do is get them placed somewhere where they can get that care. But then you don't abandon them there. You don't just leave them in a home, like in a nursing home, and let them fend for themselves. You have to be active in their lives, or what? Or you're dishonoring them. You're abandoning them. So this kid is saying, anything you would have gained from me, you're not going to get. This is a tradition in Judaism. You can dedicate all of your stuff to the Lord and bypass the commandment to honor your father and mother. What's the problem? That commandment carries a death penalty. And they're saying our tradition is more important. It's a problem, isn't it? All right, so many such cases, Jesus says. You do this a lot. In Manhattan, there's this thing called the Erev Wire. And you may never hear about this thing again because you're not Jewish. But there's this wire, and the wire goes all the way around a certain perimeter in Manhattan, and it is a loophole in their law, a loophole in rabbinic Judaism, in modern day Judaism, okay, where they say everything inside of the wire is your dwelling. Everything counts as where you live. And so it's okay if you carry something like, okay, y'all, this gets ridiculous. Am I carrying anything when it's in my pocket? Is this a burden to me?
Not a burden.
It's literally weighing me down, right? It literally is weight that I'm carrying. But let's think about the spirit of what God says when he says, don't work on the Sabbath. Don't carry heavy loads on the Sabbath. Do you think he really cares if you carry a chair with you to church? That's not what it's about. He wants you to rest, which means you're not doing hard labor. Does he care if we carry our keys in our pocket? Do you think that's the spirit of don't work on the Sabbath? No, the Jews do. They think that to carry anything other than the clothes on your back is to violate the Sabbath, unless you do it within your own living space.
Actually,
Yes.
The Jews,
It's a little ridiculous, isn't it? Yes. They can't hit a button on an elevator. They will make you walk up the stairs. What's more burdensome?
what if there's no stairs?
Well, I mean, I think there have to be stairs. I don't think you can have just an elevator in a building. I think it's illegal. No, I don't think you can. You have to walk up the stairs, or you have to wait for the elevator to come to you, and then you have to get into it, and you have to wait for somebody to hit the button to take you to your floor, because you cannot operate any piece of technology on the Sabbath. You cannot unlock your smartphone. You can't turn on a light. Your refrigerator has to have a mode where it does not light up on Saturday.
Jesus Christ.
it has to have not.
Yes, there are Sabbath modes on a lot of appliances. This is what the Erev Wire is for. It's so that you can put your stuff in your pockets and go to synagogue. Do you think that tricks God? Do you think he really thinks inside that wire you're in your own house? Is God stupid? No. They have elevated their tradition above obeying God. And they've made a mockery out of all of it. What are our traditions? Let's talk about some traditions. What are our American traditions?
God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we love our guns here in America.
Arms.
They're fun. Farms are not traditions. Although it might be like a family tradition to run a farm. Yeah, okay. But like a national tradition. Oh, yeah. Got to get that Mickey D's.
Hamburgers.
Eating hamburgers. Eating hamburgers and drinking beer and Bud Light and all that stuff. American traditions.
Bud Light.
Not anymore, but
That's like the most common beer.
it used to be Bud Light. I think it's Modelo now. I don't know. They kind of lost it when they went crazy. So, yeah, we don't need to get to any more detail about that. Moving on. Okay. Other American traditions. The 4th of July, fireworks. Ooh, why do we do fireworks on the 4th of July? Because they were literally shooting rockets at each other in the battles. And the rockets sometimes exploded in the air. And they would light up. And we're like remembering the Revolutionary War by intentionally firing explosives into the air, which is quintessentially the most American thing you can do, fireworks. But there's a reason for it. It's not just because we like loud noises and scaring all the dogs.
Yeah, they were.
They were invented in China. Rockets were invented in China. And they do the best fireworks in the world in China. Like, having lived in Shanghai, like, the best fireworks. But we do the fireworks because of the Revolutionary War. Not because of China. We do it to remember something. And then everybody does it for fun because they don't actually understand what the tradition is for. Okay? So what other traditions do we have in America? Freedom! We got to protect our freedom above it. Is everything that we're free to do good for us?
It's not really even free.
You are free once you turn 21 to go get blackout drunk every day of the week. Does that mean you should? No. Why? It's bad for you. It will probably kill you. You will be in an early grave. Okay. So what about family traditions? What kind of family traditions do y'all have?
My parents don't care.
Yeah, my parents don't do either.
Y'all don't do anything for holidays? You don't do anything regularly?
I mean, we don't even put up a tree. So.
I mean, I guess Chinese New Year.
Yeah. So
Yeah, okay.
Chinese New Year.
That's it. There's one.
Yeah,
They give you the hongbao? Okay. You get the hongbao? All right, so that's your tradition. Why do they do that? No, they don't do it for fun. It's not fun to them to give you money, I promise.
One time, my grandparents gave me like $1,000.
That's great. So why do y'all know why? Do y'all know why?
They haven't given me either.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so mad.
Yeah.
Do y'all know? It's probably in a savings account somewhere if you're looking. Yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
No, my mom just kind of.
All right. So question: do y'all know why the hongbaos exist? You don't know, do you? I encourage your challenge for this week is to go research some of your traditions. We'll get ahead of that a little bit. I want y'all to research some of those things, find out what they mean, and then ask yourself: is this a good tradition or is this a sinful tradition? I'm not saying hongbaos are sinful. I'm just saying you should look into it.
It's probably sinful.
And in fact, every tradition you have, you should look into it. Why do we come up here? Why do I stand up here and preach to you? Why do we meet on Sundays? Why in service do we have a stage? Why do we have worship and then the message? Why do we have, in most churches, you have the pulpit, you have the communion table, the pulpit, the baptistry, and the cross. Why do we do it like that? Why do we have an aisle down the middle? Why do we have times of prayer? Why do we do all of these things? These are all just traditions. Why do we have a certain number of deacons on our board? Why do we have, I could go on literally all day. I won't. All of these things are traditions. Does that mean they're bad? No. But do you know why we do them?
Forgot.
You probably don't. I didn't. I had to go to college before somebody told me why the sanctuary was lined up the way it is. Why do you think at some churches, they put on this massive production, like this huge effort to make sure you never have a single distraction during church? It's not convenience. It is incredibly inconvenient.
For money.
Nope, it's not for money. I mean, for some of it might be, but not usually. Nope, not even efficiency. It is not cheaper. It is not easier to have a sound guy or a production person that just handles the slides. Or a consistent church slide group, like all the slides look the same. Why do they do that? They do it so that you're not distracted, so that you can pay attention to what matters at the church. What is that? Learning about God's word. Why do we worship? Why do we want to not have mistakes when we're playing music? Why do we not want the slides to get all off and be backwards so that you're singing the wrong words? Because it's distracting, and it takes you out of the spirit of worship, and it prevents you from communicating properly with God, and from getting into the right headspace to hear the message. That sounds kind of silly, right? Like, why do you need electricity for your instruments? Just play your instruments. Well, what if the person in the back can't hear and they're distracted by the fact that they can't hear? Why do you want the slides to work and not have crazy flashy transitions all over the place? Because you don't want to distract the people. Why do you not want... Now, what I do is less traditional, okay? Obviously, because we're in the lunchroom. Why is it that I ask y'all questions and expect you to answer?
Engaging learning.
Yeah, because it's not traditional. What's traditional is for me to talk to you and for you to sit there and listen. But I can't learn like that. I fall asleep. You can ask a professor from college. He is now my boss's boss. He's the CFO of the university now. So, and I fell asleep in his history class regularly, at least once a week. And I was like, look, it's not you. It's just that this is a lecture and I can't be engaged in this at all. And I literally am incapable of staying awake for more than half an hour if I sit still and I'm not engaged in something. And he said, it's okay, Xander. I understand because the philosophers bore me to sleep too. I almost fell asleep lecturing you. He actually said that, which is honestly the kindest thing he could have ever said to me. He called me a punk my freshman year.
Why?
I had forgotten about that until he reminded me yesterday. Or rather, one of my other professors reminded me yesterday.
Why did he call you a punk?
I was a punk.
Did you do like bad things?
No, it's not that I was doing anything bad. It's just my attitude wasn't great. I had a lot to learn in college about how little I knew about everything. All right, so let's wrap up. We have in our lives probably thousands of traditions that we don't even realize. And it may even be that those traditions are part of our laws now. Like, why do we drive on the right side of the road? Why do the British drive on the left side of the road? Because everybody's right-handed and they used to have to defend the carriages, and so you would want your right hand to be facing the person you were going past. That's the reason they drive on the left side of the road today. Because back in the day of horse-drawn carriages, they needed to. Kind of silly, right? You don't even realize that this is how the world works. The question is, have we just decided to do whatever everybody else is doing, or are we going to think about it biblically? Why are we doing the things we do? In church, I do this the way I do it because I want y'all to be engaged, and I think that is going to be more beneficial to you. However, most churches throughout all of human history did it the way the Chinese service is going right now. Why? There's probably a reason. Does it work well for our group? No. But there's probably a really good reason. And so we got to be sensitive to those things. All right? Don't be afraid to research your traditions. You need to know why you do the things you do so that you can decide if those things should continue on. The Jews, the tradition is everything. Even to this day, tradition is everything. But if we're not careful, we fall into sinful behaviors trying to avoid sinning, which is a very sad irony, if you ask me. All right, any questions relevant to traditions?
Funny thing.
You have a funny question?
Funny thing.
Oh, I'll tell you after we pray, okay? It is really funny, and if Hannah's watching, she also thinks it's really funny, which is why she texted me during church. So let's bow our heads and pray. Your challenge this week is what? What did I challenge y'all to do this week?
Tradition. Find out what's bad and what's good.
Yeah. Find at least one tradition, research why we do it, and then next week, I want y'all to actually tell me if that tradition is good or bad. Biblical or unbiblical. Start with that. Okay? If you want help with that, please send me a text message. I am extremely busy this week at work, but I am more than happy to help you to take an hour and help you research a tradition. Okay, that would be super fun. What? You could, yeah, actually that would probably work just fine. ChatGPT is good at that kind of thing. All right, let's bow our heads and pray, and then we'll set up for lunch, and then we are going to go get some ramen. or whatever food. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your word. We thank you that you're patient with us because, Lord, you know that we are flawed, that we like to do things our way. And even though you have every right to do with us as you please, because we are your creation and we are nothing without you, you still love us and you show us mercy, and you let us learn from our mistakes so that we can grow from them. Help us to ask the question about all of our practices, all of our traditions. Are these things good? Are they bad? Are they sinful? Why do we do things the way we do them? Should we keep on? Should we change? And help us to do that in a way that is biblical and that honors you, not the commands of men. Because you are God and we are not. Your ways are higher than our ways. Your thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And we cannot begin to understand your wisdom. Lord, please bless the food that we're going to eat in a little bit here. Please help to nourish us. Bless the hands that prepared it. And help continue to grow us together closer to you as a group here, but also as a church as a whole. We love you. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you all.